Ancient Athenaeum presents Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. A deep investigative study. Of Mice and Men is John Steinbeck's most distilled tragedy, a short novel that carries the emotional weight of an epic. Published in 1937, during the depths of the Great Depression, the book emerges not merely as a story of two men, but as a quiet indictment of a society structured to abandon its most vulnerable. Steinbeck does not write with spectacle, he writes with compression. Every scene is pared to essentials, every word pressed into service. This is a story about dreams, and about how easily they break. Steinbeck conceived of Mice and Men as what he called a play novelette, designed to function both as prose and as stage drama. This intention shapes the novel's structure: tight scenes, limited settings, dialogue-driven action, and characters who enter and exit like figures in a moral chamber play. The economy of form mirrors the economy of the lives depicted: nothing wasted, nothing surplus. The story opens not on people, but on place, a riverbank near Soledad, California. The land is described with tenderness and indifference in equal measure. Nature is beautiful, but unmoved by human suffering. This opening establishes one of Steinbeck's central tensions: the contrast between the timelessness of the natural world and the fragility of human aspiration. Into this landscape walk George Milton and Lennie Small. They are migrant labourers, drifting from ranch to ranch, carrying bedrolls and the faint hope of stability. But unlike most men of their kind, they are not alone. They have each other. Steinbeck emphasizes this immediately, framing their companionship as something rare, almost unnatural, in a world defined by isolation. George is small, sharp, restless. Lennie is enormous, mentally disabled, and profoundly gentle. Their physical contrast is stark, almost symbolic. George thinks for both of them. Lennie feels for both of them. Together, they form something like a complete person, mind and body bound by loyalty. The dream they share is simple: a small piece of land, a house, rabbits to tend. Steinbeck returns to this dream repeatedly, allowing it to function like a ritual. George recites it, Lennie listens. The repetition is soothing, almost religious. The dream sustains them not because it is realistic, but because it is shared. This is crucial. In Steinbeck's world, loneliness is the greatest poverty. The ranch where George and Lennie arrive is populated by men who have failed, in different ways, to escape solitude. Each character embodies a different response to isolation. Candy, the old swamper, clings to usefulness as his last defense against disposability. His ancient dog, once a skilled worker, is shot when it becomes a burden. The scene is one of the novel's most brutal moments, not for its violence, but for its inevitability. Candy watches his future enacted before his eyes. Crooks, the black stable hand, is isolated by racism. He lives alone, sleeps alone, reads alone. His intelligence and insight offer no protection. Steinbeck presents Crooks as painfully self-aware. He knows exactly why he is excluded, and he knows there is no remedy. Curly's wife, never given a name, is isolated by gender. She exists as an object of suspicion and desire, blamed for attention she cannot avoid. Her loneliness is masked by flirtation, but her need to be seen is genuine. Steinbeck treats her with restraint, neither absolving nor condemning her, but revealing the narrowness of the role assigned to her. Curly himself is isolated by insecurity. His aggression is not strength, but fear. Fear of being insignificant, fear of being overshadowed, fear of losing control. Each of these figures brushes against George and Lennie's dream. For a moment it seems contagious. Candy offers his savings, the vision grows, the land feels attainable. The possibility of escape sharpens into something almost tangible. Steinbeck allows this hope to breathe, briefly. Then he tightens the narrative like a noose. The tragedy of Mice and Men is not accidental, it is structural. From the opening scene, Steinbeck plants the seeds of the ending. Lennie's strength, his love of soft things, his inability to regulate himself, these are not flaws introduced for drama, they are facts of his being. In a compassionate society, they might be accommodated. In Steinbeck's world, they are lethal. The pivotal moment occurs quietly. Lennie, alone with Curly's wife, listens to her speak of shattered dreams, Hollywood, fame, escape. For a brief instant, the novel offers a moment of mutual vulnerability. Two people, equally lonely, equally unseen. Then fear intervenes. Lennie's instinct to comfort becomes fatal. His strength becomes uncontrollable. The moment collapses into irreversible violence. Steinbeck does not sensationalize the event. He reports it with restraint, as if recognizing that tragedy does not need embellishment. The horror lies not in shock, but in recognition. The reader knows instantly that the dream is over. What follows is not suspense, but inevitability. The men form a posse. Justice is discussed, but what they seek is not justice, it is closure. Lennie, frightened and confused, returns to the riverbank. The narrative circles back to its beginning, reinforcing the sense of fate closing in. George finds Lennie where the story began. The final scene is one of the most devastating in American literature precisely because of its tenderness. George does not rage. He does not lecture. He tells Lennie the dream one last time. The rabbits, the land, the future. Then he ends it. Steinbeck frames this act not as murder, but as mercy. In a world that would lynch Lennie or cage him without understanding, George chooses control over cruelty. It is a terrible choice, but Steinbeck offers no alternative. This is the novel's final indictment. Society leaves no room for compassion unless it is private, secret, and violent. Stylistically, Of Mice and Men is a masterclass in restraint. Steinbeck's language is plain, almost biblical in its simplicity. Dialogue carries meaning more than exposition. Symbols are natural rather than imposed. The river, the dog, the rabbits, the heron and snake in the opening scene. The title itself, borrowed from Robert Burns, announces the novel's worldview, that plans, no matter how lovingly made, are vulnerable to forces beyond control. The tragedy is not that the dream fails, but that it was never permitted to succeed. In the final moments, after George fires the gun, the other men arrive. They cannot comprehend what has happened. Slim, the only character who seems to understand, offers George silent companionship. The others talk about cards and drinks. Life resumes. This, Steinbeck suggests, is how tragedy disappears, not through resolution, but through indifference. Of Mice and Men endures because it refuses false consolation. It does not promise redemption through suffering. It does not suggest that kindness is rewarded. It insists instead on the fragility of human connection in a world structured against it. Yet it also insists on something else, that even briefly, even unsuccessfully, people can choose loyalty over abandonment. And sometimes that choice is all that separates humanity from survival.